Here.
Lisa Marone,
Here.
Ken Osmond, Megan LaFond, Vic Oliver,
Here.
Brad Spanbauer,
Here.
Akeisha Hayes. Right, 4.
We do have quorums, so we'll go ahead and begin. I do expect a couple more members to join us shortly. Next up is public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board?
I would, thank you.
Please come on up to the podium and give us your name and your address, please.
Kirsten, I'm in the city of Oshkosh. And maybe some of you know that Bradley was on a very short-term advisory committee that I also was on recently, and that was concerning the Clearwell sites, which is at the foot of Washington Avenue, if you can imagine that, where the water treatment facility plant is. Briefly, what's going on there is kind of a redux and an upgrade in their systems. And in doing so, everything else will be unearthed at the lakefront and lakeshore. And as you know, that's park yet considered, and there's contiguous public land with that. And my purpose of being on that committee would have been, and hopefully is to fruition, the idea that we rewild and rewrite the narrative that the city has there from being kind of junky to something beautiful, and that could be rewilded area. We could support, I'm calling it native-scaping, indigenous landscaping. We would bring in shoreland habitat. We would support the aquaculture there. We would make it a point of beauty in our city, which is very desperately needed. Not many cities have lakeshore, and especially on a beautiful glacial lake like Lake Winnebago. And this site is poorly underrepresented of that. So, coming here to you as well, I would ask for your advocacy with planning, with Department of Public Works, Water Department, City Council, to support that idea of bringing in sustainable habitat for that area. That is the storm management system and water waste as well. A lot of cities in the United States are taking this trend and cue to use native lawns, native landscaping as a management system for all the excess that runs off. So in this committee, it was our duty as an advisory group to support that area and give concepts. And as I said, my concept, my sole purpose, actually it was twofold, would be native-scaping and also some cultural messaging and signage for pre-settlement history, that we highlight the indigenous nature of where we live and also beautify it. I personally would like to see that closed off to traffic or one way of seasonal traffic, so it would be green space. And in doing so, I think we would support pollinators, the aquaculture, waterfowl, quiet activities. You know, I think the taxpayer here needs those that like quiet activities, and green space deserves a space as well. You know, we have all these parks that are very much full of, I'll call plastic playgrounds, and a lot of loud spaces and spaces for barbecuing and picnic congregation, which is great. But I'd also like to see the city have more green space, quiet space, and that's not only for people to commune with nature there, but also that portion of the population that doesn't want to play on a playground or cannot, and also use it as a site of learning. I would love to see some Manoomin, which is Menominee for rice or wild rice, a production site there. And in doing so, we would see what took place for the last 12,000 years at this point. So please help me. If you are, I gave you a great handout. It has more of it than, excuse me, speaking to you just on the ecological benefits of this, but also the cultural relevance of this site. This is not a big site. There's a lot we could do with it. It could be very cost-effective. I also included in my proposal a lot of grant opportunities from the state that municipalities can take advantage of. So if you're also inclined to be sustainable and pretty with me, please advocate for any kind of meetings that come up. And I did not get any kind of correspondence from James yet, and Linda, have you? Okay, so we're unsure when that, I assume it's in the middle of September, when that meeting would be. But if there is any way you can, I don't know what you would do actually, or the protocol, but write a proposal or a statement of advocacy and support for that area to be sustainably maintained, used, and beautified. All the city of Oshkosh would be very grateful. Thank you for letting me make public comments.
Thank you.
Do you have any, should I ask, do you have any questions or more clarification?
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask her at this point? We're not noticed for this, so we can't have a discussion, but she could answer direct questions. Okay, I think you covered it so well between the handout and your talk that we don't have any. So thank you.
That's great, no, thank you, and I'm gonna make sure that I.
Okay. And we'll move on
I
then.
won't forget your name because I met you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or you got,
Oh, that's all right.
I'm short on one, so if.
We can share. I think we're all right. Yeah.
Does anyone need one?
Okay.
There we
Thank
go.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our August 7th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve August 7th meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor of approving as written, just say aye.
Aye.
Next up is our presentation from Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. Allison Carlson is their executive director, am I right?
Yep, that's right.
And she's got info to share.
I do have some information to share. Thank you for introducing me and welcoming me to your meeting today. I'm really excited to be here. Let me get the slides, so I will go. And as Margie said, I'm the executive director. I'm still fairly new in my role. I'm the first executive director at WLGCC, which is the acronym we like to name to shorten things because we know local government loves more acronyms. But been in my role for about almost 6 months. Oops, okay.
If you just use the
These
scroll.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks. So I prepared about 10, 15 minutes or so, and then happy to answer any questions that you have during the presentation or at the end, however you'd like to handle it. But I'll cover what WLGCC is, the value of being a member, some of our current impacts and initiatives, a member spotlight. Brad, I know you wanted to hear a bit more about the City of Stevens Point and some of their initiatives, and then just how to join, and again, questions and discussion. So our mission is to provide a platform for members to collaborate on overcoming the barriers of decarbonization, accelerating local climate solutions, and ensuring the benefits of the clean energy economy are distributed to everyone throughout the state. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're here for. Here's our membership that you can see on this little map here. We've grown quite a bit over the last couple years. We started in 2020. And yeah, we keep on growing, certainly starting to expand, of course, beyond the Madison and Milwaukee areas, which is very important. Of course, we want to make sure that we have a statewide organization and statewide representation. So that's been where a lot of our growth recently has been, pushing further into central and northern Wisconsin, and then into smaller cities as well. So kind of expanding both ways, which is very exciting. We're at 21 members now. This map keeps getting outdated because the village of Shorewood just joined a couple days ago. So yeah, we're up to 21 members now. The history of WLGCC, so it started with staff from the city of Eau Claire, Dane County, and city of Milwaukee, just kind of acknowledging that, you know, the local government, local community voice in climate and clean energy is really important, is really unique, and it's not necessarily heard in different venues, being represented in different policy areas. So wanting their voices to be heard on a collective level, and then also just the reality that staff, local communities have limited budgets, so we could benefit from all working together. And the value of the membership, I kind of boil it down to these three key areas. So facilitating that collective voice that I just mentioned on climate and policy issues, providing resources and tools to achieve deeper impacts, and then creating a peer-to-peer learning environment and information sharing opportunities. And when I talk in the next slides about impacts and initiatives, I'll provide examples of each of these things. So facilitating a collective voice. One of the areas that we've been really involved in, especially recently in the last 6 months or so, is working with state agencies, because there's a lot of federal funding that is going to, as you probably know, coming into the state through the Inflation Reduction Act and IIJA, otherwise known as the infrastructure bill. So we've been working specifically in this example, with the Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy, and they are administering the state's role in the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. So this is kind of two parts. The first part is planning. They're going to be bringing a statewide climate action plan together and getting input from the state, from different parts of the state. We've been engaging with them, and our membership has been engaging with them from the beginning, before they even got that money, to provide some input into what that plan should look like, just to make sure local government needs are represented. I have a snapshot there of the memo that we delivered them. We surveyed our members. We had several discussions to understand, okay, what are the top sources of greenhouse gas emissions and kind of top climate and clean energy strategies that you could really use the most help from the state with. So that this is a little snapshot there. The memo kind of goes into more detail, but really just to make sure, again, that we're aligning those state policies and initiatives with local needs. So that's been a really fruitful effort. I think the Office of Clean Energy and Sustainability has been really appreciative of our relationship there. Here's another example of facilitating a collective voice. So we're supporting pathways to more efficient and resilient building stock across the state. So we have been engaging quite a bit with the Department of Safety and Professional Services. They're the agency that oversees building codes in the state for commercial and single family. And we did work with other organizations to get them to propose the most recent IECC code, energy efficient code. That now is up to the state legislature whether they accept that. It's kind of up in the air whether they will or not. But that being said, it was good relationship building with them. And then we also are a subrecipient to a DOE award. There's a snapshot there with Slipstream and some other organizations, and we'll be charted with that several activities. But our specific role will be working with members to chart out a roadmap for advanced building policies and initiatives. So I think that's going to really provide some good resources to local governments and communities on how they can really raise up their building stock and make it, clean, resilient, healthy. And then another example of facilitating that collective voice, we do a lot of work with the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. They oversee all of the utilities in the state. So a couple areas we're working with them. We've been engaging with them about local energy utility data access. This, of course, is one of the big pieces of greenhouse gas emissions, and really important that local governments have access to that data on an aggregate level across the community, so they understand how they can target different solutions to bring down greenhouse gas emissions. And for some local communities, it can be really hard to get access to that data. They've had trouble, getting a hold of their utility representative. It just takes a long time, and some of them have had no luck at all. So we want to make that process easier and get on the same page with the utilities. So we're working with PSC to have a roundtable discussion. So that's kind of at the beginnings of kind of organization right now, but hopefully that'll be fruitful. And then fostering growth in renewable energy. So we did decide to intervene in a couple of rate cases that are going on right now because these two utilities are proposing a net metering policy that's very different than what has been seen in the past. So, and we've acknowledged the precedent-setting nature this might have if other utilities, if they say, oh, they made that change, well, it's okay for us to make that change, there could be statewide ramifications. So we want to get in front of that. And then providing resources and tools. So a big part, like I said, of the last 6 months is just navigating the Inflation Reduction Act and infrastructure bill. We did hire a contractor mid-July to help members like I said, navigate, identify the good grant opportunities, help them to brainstorm different ideas and concepts and provide some guidance. Also, building up other resources too. We have a Google Drive for members with a growing list of resources, references, and papers that other members have found useful. And then we're starting to bring together what I call starter briefs. So if you're a local government staff or someone from the community that really needs, you're just looking into energy efficiency, what can I do? Okay, here's where you can start. Here are some good resources. Here's some FAQs to get going. So we'll add more of those over time. And then facilitating member input into state-level grant processes. I did mention the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, but working with other agencies on their processes as well, like I said, to align statewide policies initiatives with local needs. And then peer-to-peer learning opportunities, information sharing. So we have a few different work groups that will meet on specific issues. It's a good chance to just get to know other local government staff and ask questions and think about solutions. We have a monthly meeting that we'll host and talk about different issues. And then at the front of that, we'll have optional member-to-member brainstorming sessions. If someone has a question about something and they're wondering what other governments are doing. And then we're launching a webinar series. We've hosted a couple so far with guests from Focus on Energy and then someone from NREL about understanding transmission needs for renewable energy. So the next couple of slides, I got some bullet points from the city of Stevens Point, and I'm not going to do as good of a job as Mariza might do. Brad, I know you attended that MREA fair, and he did a really great job. But he highlighted a few different projects that Stevens Point has done. This first one, I won't read through all of this. You can do that later if you'd like to. But the one point that I remember him getting across in his presentation, it focused on this wastewater treatment plant and the improvements that they've put into effect, and really how that was a big kind of momentum starter for them. It was a great project because the energy savings and the benefits were just very clear. So it was a great kind of catalyst for local staff and other folks in the community to really come around and say, hey, this saved energy, greenhouse gas emissions, and it saved us money too. This is real stuff that affects the bottom line and that we all can kind of rally around. Let's do more of that. And then they have installed a solar array on their utility garage. And then they're also doing some different things around reducing heat island effect with trees that are in the right of way to kind of make sure that there's shade to bring down temperatures. And so those are a few highlights that they shared with me. And the next slide, some future initiatives they have planned, incorporating sustainability principles into their neighborhood plans, creating an EV ordinance, and doing energy audits. And then how we'll support them, connecting them with communities, providing resources, and then advocating at the statewide level. So these bullet points I brought together with one of their staff members, a planner on staff, Adam Kuhn, and I'm happy to connect you with him as well too if you have any other questions to follow up with them on. So how do you join? So it's a pretty simple process, and I'll note it doesn't cost anything either to be a member. So basically, you look at our mission, make sure you're generally aligned with that, and we have some example resolutions that you can take. The resolution basically outlines our mission. Maybe you put in some of the City of Oshkosh's sustainability objectives and goals, and then say we're going to join WLGCC. And that resolution would then have to be approved by your governing board or council, however the process would work in the City of Oshkosh, and then appoint a staff person that would be able to attend the meetings and contribute to our collective efforts, and that's it. It's pretty simple. So that's my presentation. Feel free to ask any questions now as there's time, or reach out after the fact too. I'm happy to answer questions.
Where are these meetings and how do you attend?
They're all remote now, and they have been really since the beginning, since we started off in the pandemic. But then being remote just kind of is the most cost-effective thing too when you have a statewide organization. Everyone's across the state anyway, so most of our meetings are remote.
As far as membership, you mentioned that it's staff members, and I think up there it said, or representative.
Mm-hmm.
Would you look for the city to appoint a representative, such as somebody from this board or someone else, or?
So generally, it will be a staff person that's appointed. We have planners that are the appointed representative. We have city managers, sometimes even like a village manager, or city manager. We do have situations though where, like for Wauwatosa, they just don't have staff time available. So they have a representative from their sustainability committee that attends the meetings and collaborates with us. So we're flexible if there's that concern, but we have found that it tends to be more effective if we can have an actual staff person that is our main point of contact, because they kind of know on a day-to-day basis what's happening and the different levers to pull and all the ins and outs. But that's not to say if that's challenging to do right now that you couldn't have a committee member or a board member be the representative now as well.
If I may revisit the scope of the organization,
Yeah.
are you entirely focused on environmental, atmospheric issues and energy issues, or is there crossover with sustainable water practices, reforestation, all those types of other issues that help communities reduce heat, preserve quality of life in terms of water, because this is a pretty water intensive state.
Sure.
So is there a lot of crossover with those issues as well?
So we have focused primarily, at least in our first couple years, on mitigation and clean energy issues. I think those have been kind of the top interest areas of our membership, just because of their impact on greenhouse gas emissions. They're kind of the biggest things, and we haven't focused as much on adaptation or natural solutions at this point. But I think as the membership grows and over time, as we kind of go along, and as an organization get more resources ourselves, that will move into those areas too. So, but just so you're aware kind of our scope, it has been a little more focused on kind of clean energy up to this point.
And that's really clear in the resolution if you get a chance to read it.
You say you're not clear on it?
No, I'm saying the
Oh,
focus
it is
on
very
energy
clear.
is very clear when you read the resolution that we would have to adopt.
And we do have a copy of this, and we can share that too if other. Do you have anything?
I do, but others should go if they feel
Well,
so
then I'll go
inclined.
ahead.
Go for it. You're the chair.
Which means I should be last. Okay, obviously, you're a statewide organization, and you limit yourself strictly to municipalities, is that correct?
To municipalities and county governments. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. We've got 4 counties right now: Eau Claire, La Crosse, Milwaukee, and Dane counties.
That was my question.
Allison, would you mind going back to the slide with the Stevens Point
Sure.
information?
This one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so this maybe isn't necessarily a question, but more of just a comment or a reflection on this. I attended the Midwest Renewable Energy Association's Energy Fair and saw Allison present with the mayor from Stevens Point and some others. And so was just kind of, intrigued by that this group exists. I think it's a good, it seems like a good group that kind of is coming together around a good purpose, which is, I think, that strong connection between, like, here's what's happening on a state level in terms of policy and implementation. And then here are ways that municipalities and, like, these smaller entities, villages and stuff can kind of learn from each other and learn, like, how do I take what's happening at the state level and apply that to my population, or, right, the people living in my area, and take advantage of, right, grants and other things. I mean, I think there's some very real good takeaways in being able to learn from another city in your own state that probably has a lot of likeness, and probably shares a lot of how the municipality is run, right? They kind of run, generally, I think, can kind of run things similarly in a certain region. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of made the request to ask for the information about Stevens Point because I thought it was extremely fascinating, the work that they're doing as a city to add renewable energy, to find efficiencies in their wastewater systems. Like, they're using that to run a boiler to heat themselves. I mean, just like ways to cut costs, cut emissions. I think there's a lot to learn from our neighbors, and so I feel like the value, in particular, one of the values of WLGCC is just learning from other entities that have kind of, right, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and kind of taking a cue from them and saying, oh, hey, how did you do this? Our wastewater treatment plant is set up the same way. Or, yeah, we want to map our, trees on our tree terraces, right, in our city. Like, what does that do? Or how can we apply for some federal funding to reduce urban heat island effect or something like that, right? So I just think there's a lot of I just saw all the benefits, and this probably is related to the work that I do, for the UW system as well. And so I see some similarities and commonalities between those. But I just thought this was a very worthwhile group to learn about. So I want to just say thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you for learning about this and sharing it with us, since you can't exactly use it directly yourself. Got it. Which he shares all the time. I'll elaborate. But I had heard something on the radio on the way here. I was listening to WPR, and they were talking about a particular oil company that has developed something they call open air carbon capture. It's a system that they are promoting as a way to mitigate the carbon issue without pulling fossil fuels out of the ground. It's a way for them to stay in business longer is basically what they're doing. But of course, they're trying to say that it's good for the environment. And it's not bad, except if you do that along with mitigation, it's very different than if you do it just to help. Yeah. So I just found that interesting and thought that might be something that you might want to look at too, because of course we need that in Wisconsin from that company. I'm very interested in the starter briefs that you are putting up on your Google Drive. Those are open to all members as soon as a resolution is accepted by a municipality, right?
Yep, yeah. It just has kind of a brief synopsis of, here's some information generally about, just use the example of energy efficiency, and then it has, here's some, good initial resources that other members have read through, or, we have and found useful, they're valid. And then some frequently asked questions as well. What funding might be available? Where should I look? What state agencies are involved? if there are different kind of member examples or, different case studies they have on their websites, we point to those as well. And there are other organizations out there that have different resources. We've found there is quite a bit of like information and resources out there for climate change solutions, but it's all dispersed across different websites. You've got to do a bunch of Googling, and that's where we wanted to just kind of save members time and say, okay, start here. We've already, brought this together. Start there, and then you can, go on your journey.
So, Margie, my question to you would be, and maybe this is just a process question, if the SAB wanted to make a recommendation for the city of Oshkosh to join WLGCC, would we have to discuss that at a future date and kind of draft something, and then would that go to council?
We'll have to put it on the agenda for a future month.
Okay.
Probably next month would be fine.
Sure.
We have the resolution that we can work with. And we could go ahead and work with staff to draft the resolution and get it ready to pass on.
Yeah.
It would actually, I believe, go to the city manager, and then he would refer it to council.
Got it.
I believe so, yep.
So, yeah, we can do that. I see benefits with no downsides, so, yeah.
No cost to it, so, yeah.
How do you get paid?
We've got foundation grants, we have some federal funding, federal grant coming in now too. So, still kind of growing and building, but, yeah. So not member dues, that's not the source.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Don't feel like you have to, but.
The keyboard back. Yeah, and I'll just stick around a little bit if that's all right.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda then is the UWO Environmental Studies Senior Seminar Project Ideas. We being, Brandon and I have a meeting next week with Dr. Feldman to decide to give some ideas to the class. And so before we got to that point, we wanted to see what the SAB might have that you would like to see us ask the students to work on for their, and they will be reporting in December to us. Did I say that right, Emma? You're looking thoughtful.
I think so. Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Okay.
Did you already discuss some possible ideas with them?
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're reaching
We're
out now.
doing this now.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, that's not true. We did discuss some ideas with Dr. Feldman, just him. What we're doing at our next meeting is actually meeting with the class.
Okay.
But we can still be throwing out more ideas for them if we have them. So, anybody got anything?
Should we look at the list of what we've already
No.
had? No?
No, because then you're just gonna go, well, we should follow up on that.
Why not? Okay.
You can pull up the 2023 SAB goals, though. I think that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Goal 7 is educate citizens on climate change preparedness, floods, temperature changes, soil erosion, food scarcity. I don't know that we've made any movement on anything like that
Something about resiliency then, basically.
to share with the
Mm.
community, not just for us.
Like a climate resiliency plan or like pulling data,
Mhm.
hazard mitigation.
Tips and tricks for citizens. That'd be huge.
I agree.
The thought.
Any discussion on that, or does anybody have any other ideas? Additional ideas? We can give them 27 ideas if we want. They're gonna choose what feels good to them, so.
Vic, can you run through our other goals?
Yeah, okay. So 6 was create partnerships with local businesses and organizations to increase recycle bin access to citizens in the downtown area. They could do that.
Like waste management,
Yeah,
Like
of
a
like,
recycling-
what are the logistics of like putting a recycling bin on Main Street? Who's gonna take care of it? Who's responsible? What does that cost? What's the turnaround? What's the benefit? What's the city input?
Yeah, so they would
Like an assessment.
They would investigate and kind of put together a proposal for some of those things.
And then they can talk to, people for the city as well as to what's the reality of doing that.
That's actually a good one. I mean, if I can put a blue bin in my front yard,
That's what I'm saying.
why can't there be pickups on Main Street?
Especially during the farmer's market, that's
Or
where this goal has
parks.
really stemmed from over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then expanded to parks.
Yeah.
Main Street and
Parks, yeah, or I'm even thinking like, how do you green events, right? Like
Yes.
if Oshkosh is, I feel like maybe swinging back into kind of this event centric city. How do you handle, how do we as a city try to better encourage,
Yeah, like reducing plastic waste, reducing
Right.
any type of waste.
Yeah. That should be part of a permit requirement in my mind for an event.
I would agree,
Yes, and
but
we had,
let them do the legwork.
Like about 6-7 years ago, we had written a how to green your event and included stuff like that. And we, at that point, said this should be something that's handed out as people are applying for their permits for events, because they sit down with, I think it's the attorney, the fire department, the police department, and somebody from City Hall, and discuss what that event is going to need. And apparently that was too late in the process. When they handed out this brochure, they'd already made all their decisions. So we needed to figure out a different way to hit it, to hit the events earlier.
yeah.
And that's kind of where it got dropped because a lot of other things were going on. But I agree, we should maybe see if we can revisit that somehow too. So maybe we could even pull out one of those brochures and share it with them. It was a starting point. So green
Yeah.
events, basically, right? Greening events.
We also have the Create Green Tier Legacy Annual Report on here. I don't know how impactful they could be, but
We did discuss that already and probably not.
it's not a very engaging one, I feel like, for students.
It took a lot of input from city people too. So,
Right.
staff, so.
Right. Utilize MIT presentation to increase energy efficiencies of Oshkosh homes. Some sort of community education on insulation, windows, solar panels, etc.
We do already have all that data, and it's up on the Sustainable Oshkosh page, I think. But
I think
But
it
they
was,
take it and do something with it, though? Like, great, it's on our page, but like, what good is it doing?
I think the idea was, and this, this maybe feels like, I don't know that this quite would fit with the scope of a student project like what they're doing, but I think the idea was, and I think this might be because I brought this up, we had those folks from MIT analyze, right, kind of this cross-section of Oshkosh, and they sort of gave us a pretty good breakdown of like pre-1980 and post-1980 homes and like what to do to them.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
And so, I think the idea when I spoke with Brandon and other staff about it was just making more people in the city aware about like, hey, did you know this report was done? Here's what you should be doing to your home. It sounds like maybe a connection or a benefit kind of back to the Wisconsin local government situation, right, is if there are resources out there that have been pooled to say, here's what you should be doing for energy efficiency, and here are the top 3 funding sources, or here's a state policy that kind of gives you some information or whatever. I mean, I just think pointing people more quickly to the right direction.
not unlike Focus on Energy, that didn't make it all available in one spot. But then we have to direct people there, otherwise they don't know what's there.
Right.
How would we have the students?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure that I'm not
don't
sure
think
that
this one works
piece
for that.
fits. I mean, I kind of like the general waste handling idea, or thinking about like farmers market or some other higher traffic public spaces like downtown, like the parks. I like the green events idea. I like the first idea Vic threw out, which was
Climate change preparedness.
yeah. I mean, maybe
think that
even
one's
doing
really
some
impactful.
resiliency, not necessarily. Maybe planning, but just some specifics within resiliency.
I did check with the city manager on that after we discussed it last month, And the city basically has no resiliency plan
Right.
at all. And so yes, if they could give us some ideas that could just be passed on.
Because there's,
individuals
yeah,
could use
if
it.
they
Happy to
can
get
get the
moving.
ideas, then there's grants for the city to apply to write the plan.
Proposals. You get it. Two more. Create and implement a sustainability education program for new and existing City of Oshkosh employees.
I believe we're.
Green
I
tea.
think that's rolling, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's in the progress.
In progress,
It's in
yes.
the works, yep.
Yeah, I don't really know what that would be impactful for students to really do anything with. The last one is apply for the Energy Innovation Grant to create a comprehensive energy plan of municipal buildings and then utilize that data to create an implementation plan.
Also rolling.
Right. So I think we've hit our wall of goals here.
All right, well, we got some more stuff to add, so we'll be sure and share those ideas. We'll want to get those to Dr. Feldman before next week, so.
And if any of them like marketing, they can take over the Facebook page too.
Yeah. That was an update, you guys. on
Seeing
that.
as there it's next on the agenda,
Coming up
yeah.
on that. Was there anything else on the seminar project ideas before we move on?
I think that's a good list.
Okay. Then moving on to our, we've got it on the agenda as monthly sustainability Facebook topics to have a discussion. It can be a little bit broader than that. I mean, in the past, we had designated months that we wanted to talk about, I don't know, salt, and always do that in January or something. Things like that to hand off to staff so that it could be posted on Facebook. Another thought I had along those same lines, if we were interested in doing this, would be, I did discuss this a little bit with Oshkosh Media, and they can create PSAs, public service announcements. If we wanted to create some PSAs for sustainability that would be along the same lines, we
Sure.
could, and we could do that, as in, we would work with staff at Oshkosh Media. They do a wonderful job. It'd be like a 15 or 30-second, and then they can use those in between shows and things like that, where PSAs always run, yeah. So I didn't know if there would be any interest among the board to help flesh out some thoughts that we would want to do with that. I bring it up because as we're coming up with topics that we'd like to really hit on Facebook, I think they would be very compatible to do sort of at the same time. So did anybody have any thoughts on Facebook topics that, or times of the year that we should be?
I
Send
got
me
a
that
whole,
list.
that'd be me. I have a whole
Yeah.
schedule.
You have the whole schedule done?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I
2023,
was gonna take
2024.
that to SBDC and environmental studies
Already done.
to discuss that.
When did you do that?
The last meeting.
Did I see it?
Nope. Sent it to
Yeah.
Sent it to Ken.
So I was gonna, with my sit-down next week, I was gonna go over all those ideas. Also, one of the kids from SBDC had a great suggestion, and it ties into your PSA. Because this young person actually had a genius idea. She goes, there are hundreds of bars and restaurants in this city with smart menu boards.
Yeah.
That they flash advertisements on and stuff like that. She's just pass out thumb drives with different slides so they can put them on their smart boards. And you could be in every bar and restaurant in the city with some of your content.
What is SBAC?
SBDC, Small Business Development Center. They have a group of interns that do digital marketing. And so I'm actually working with them for my business, as well as several other small business people are working with them. So I'm sitting down with them next week to discuss what they can do. Now, obviously, their priority are small businesses. But they're allowing me the chance to explain the benefit to businesses in the community if they engage in the sustainability conversation. So I'm hoping that we can get on their agenda list for some of the content they spin. It's a pretty talented group. I don't know if you've ever encountered the Discover Oshkosh digital interns, who are amazing, incredibly enthusiastic, and they are heavy hitters. They put out content every day. multiple times a day.
These are students.
Hmm.
It's very engaging.
They have they have an energy and an excitement about doing this because it is a resume builder for them, and you know,
And then is there a whole new crop every semester?
not every semester. I'd say 50-50, like half the kids roll off, half of them stay.
So there's constantly new ideas coming in too.
Right.
Yes.
And what's really cool about them is they understand the nuances of reaching different generational pockets of demographics, because they were, for example, when they're evaluating a small business, if you don't have motion in your posts, they won't be seen, they won't be paid attention to. If you don't have the right colors, if you don't have a palette, if you don't have a consistent branding theme, you know. So like for us, they would probably flesh out ideas, like what are our barriers to participation and sustainability? Cost, time, effort, personnel. So what they do is they say, okay, what do we do to attack that? We're going to focus on content that makes people understand it can be easy, it can be revenue generating, it can be cost effective, you know, that kind of thing. So they try to funnel all the content. So what they do is they create a question template for you. It's like if you provide the content, they're going to ask about, okay, does it hit on these marks? They're very good at what they do.
But we can't work with them because we're not a small business.
Well, we can,
Yeah.
Be a Ken.
We can.
yeah. Well, no, it's a matter of prioritization. So it's, you know, they're going to hand out assignments to students, you know, through a pecking order, and we're going to be last to the trough possibly. But there's ways to overcome that.
Which they could teach us. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
I mean, I'm amazed by their creativity.
Well, after that, do you even want to share your list?
Oh, I'm good.
It's pretty thorough, and it really follows.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got a good cycle.
they're timely according to the season.
Yeah, that's the goal. So typically kicking off the year in January with like road salt alternatives. February is always plastic free February because I love an alliteration. That's honestly where it comes from. March, land management and food. April, Earth Day. So it's history. Throw Arbor Day in there. And then do a little prep for No Mow May. Get No Mow May, talk about pollinators, bird fest, all that jazz. June, rain barrels, rain gardens, summary of No Mow May. And that's ideally when I'd like to coordinate then a rain barrel workshop to actually get people engaged. July, focusing on water in general. Lots of topics you can subgroup from there. August, how to have a sustainable school year. September, electric vehicles and bikes. October, energy efficiency. November, waste and recycling. And then December I had open. But at some point, I really think we need to start with what is sustainability? How do I get involved? How to have like a sustainable holiday season is always a big one. Wrapping paper, what can you cannot do, all that stuff.
Yeah.
City resources, what has Oshkosh done so far? Like brag about what we have done thus far and really kind of show off who we are, how can people get involved, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, it's a really good list because you
Thanks.
immediately made me think of. I'm a sucker for Facebook posts that have the life hack things, and there's a woman on there that does tapeless gift wrapping.
Yes, the way you fold it.
Yeah.
It's like origami. Yes.
So my thinking was, in working with the students, is we have a theme, but they're going to fill in all kinds of detail to make
Correct.
multiple posts. I mean, it's just,
Correct.
and they research like nobody's business, you know, so.
So did you sign us up for this yet?
No, in fact, they'll probably present me with a contract. There is an agreement that you have to do to make, because they want you to follow through, or us to follow through on meeting with them, sitting down, having a discussion. So there might have to be a working session, I'm anticipating, with the board.
Happy to help.
Yeah, but it's, like I said, I would also like to open up the conversation beyond Facebook.
Agreed.
Because, well, like my son says, is that Facebook is for old people and racist. So, We gotta be on Instagram.
There is.
Instagram for
Is there
sure.
still Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it's
Oh, yeah.
Twitter that's not there.
That's
Obviously, I don't pay much attention.
Yeah.
We'll skip Twitter.
The thing I was going to comment about with the, I mean, yeah, I love Vic's list. I love Ken's idea of working with SBDC. I think another easy thing to do too that we try to employ at the university is looking at like our county waste and recycling, right? You can kind of like reshare their posts because they're often
Yes.
sharing good tips and just like good reminders, that kind of things. Like that's a pretty easy content to just kind of repost. I think when you mentioned about the PSAs, I thought about maybe connecting with our county recycling folks because those feel like good, simple, easy reminder PSAs that would be pretty applicable to right.
Anyone.
Hopefully everybody is recycling, and
Right.
if you need a reminder about how to recycle,
There you go.
those feel like easy PSAs to do.
Would we be allowed to share PSAs with like Titan TV?
I don't see any
don't
reason
know.
why not, though I never specifically asked that.
Because they do a lot
I
of
have asked in
PSAs.
the past if Oshkosh Media produced something, if it could be shared, for example, with a Green Bay TV station, and they said yes, so I would assume there wouldn't be an issue. I mean, time makes more sense, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, the sustainability Facebook page does follow a lot of other great pages from when I built it. But it's really important, I think, to remember, too, what we're asking of our city staff liaison, too. So Brandon's the only one with access to actually post things and share things. So for a while, what I was doing in, like, a sharing standpoint was literally, like, on my own screenshotting things, sending them to him, like, hey, can you share this, like, in his email, and, like, bugging him throughout the day to, like, go and share things, which is probably annoying. So I think we just need to be conscious of that, too. And then, again, I would always advocate for someone on the board to have a pulse on the social media, knowing that that's a huge part of how we're going to ever get the community engaged. That's my piece.
I would agree. I mean,
It was really nice when I could just change profiles on my phone.
didn't we discuss creating separate profiles? I thought that we
Oh, that
discussed
if
that
we did one,
briefly.
though, was it through the city?
Yeah, we just
Right.
can't say we're the city or
can't
that
say
we
we're the city,
represent
but
the
we can
city,
say-
or
Yeah.
it gets messy fast, and that's where the original decision was to have that. And then unfortunately another board, not this one, ruined the ability for those of us who volunteer to have access to the social media pages.
I understand the history, so that's off
Mm-hmm.
the table then. It's still going to be through.
Well,
city
the official
resource.
one is through the city. We
Correct.
did discuss, I know, fairly recently, that we could, I mean, any of us could set up a page if we want.
Yes, we
Put
just
content
need,
on there. We just can't say we're from the city of Oshkosh.
Need to
And
be-
we can't say we're doing it on behalf of the sustainability board. We just have to say,
I'm a citizen. and
yeah,
I
we're
care.
sustainable in Oshkosh. I mean, you know, we do something like that. Could get those same words in there where it would be, you know, searchable, but it would have to be clear that it's.
So you'd
not
have to be
the
like
city.
generic sustainability Oshkosh.
Yes.
But you can't say board, you can't say city of.
Correct. Which
got it.
then, where's really the impact, right? Like that.
But the
there's a-
city's page could then share it, which would be easier than creating the content
Exactly,
every
that was my
time.
point.
So we could just have almost like a dummy account where the
Right,
city
so-
takes from there.
An
and make
unofficial
it-
page?
So they
makes it-
follow
yeah.
us, they could still
like
it.
filter it and they share it.
And it makes it
God.
easy for Brandon not to.
That's
And
kind of
then
where
he
my
could
head's at.
schedule them to post at certain times
Yeah.
now, which is.
That's what worked really well with the themes kind of in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of our transition was I was generating all of the content, which is exhausting, and then sending it to him like a month ahead of time, and then he would
Right. Mm-hmm.
just schedule posts, and that's easier. It is the like in the moment sharing, like this is
Right.
really cool or impactful, etc. That was getting a little bothersome,
Right.
I think, because he has a very large
So
other
now
job to do.
we can
Right.
tag the city. Our liaison
Yeah.
can follow us.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has impact.
We can tag the city in personal posts too.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
So then there's the question of, is it beneficial for us to just do it as our own person or to
Because that's
create
one
a
of the things
dummy
we'll have to
page?
discuss with our resources that if we acquire them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we do about this? How's that fit into our strategy?
how do we get from A to B, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I have forwarded some things, including emails that I've received too, that had information in them, to Brandon, and he has posted those, so some of the pretty pictures you saw I gave him.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that, Brandon's not doing a great job. I just think that we just need to be very mindful of how much work and additional content we're putting on him versus respecting his boundaries.
Because if we have our own page, nothing stops us from pumping out content
Nothing at all.
like a Gatling gun. But at least
Except time.
our liaison has the opportunity to kind of decide what they're going to forward or approve of or whatever.
Right. Sure.
And that means that if there's a week that he can't get to it, there's a week he can't get to it. And maybe all of a sudden he catches up and a month's worth of stuff gets shared, in one day. So I think that's a way of gatekeeping
Sure.
on behalf of our liaison, but still getting stuff out there.
About bringing them, yeah. So are you maybe planning to share your list with,
The rest of you all? Yeah, sure.
Really, please?
Yeah.
then we could kind of try to adhere to it a little more if we knew what it was.
Yeah, definitely can. Yeah, I just shared it with Ken because I knew that he had plans to get some students involved, but I can send it out to Brandon and then have him send it out to the group. Yes.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good discussion.
Don't you like working with a group that's sensitive to city staff members' time?
We're trying to be nice.
Emma loves working with us. Okay, agenda items for a future meeting. We do have a discussion that we want to have about the WLGCC and the resolution, so I've got that down. Another thing that I want to put on next month is the SCN, which stands for Sustainable Communities Network. Lisa and I attended a meeting on behalf of the SAB. This is a group that had been formed a long time ago. It's kind of getting a rebirth because it had sort of died during COVID. It includes any organization, municipality, business that wishes to participate. There are some very sustainable companies around that work hard at that, and they have participated in the past. The rebirth meeting only included maybe 3 municipalities, as I recall. But the leader of this group is actively reaching out to other groups before this next meeting. We will be hosting this meeting in October, and but not until October 30th. So I'll put that on the agenda so we can talk more about it, what it does, and see if any of you would also be interested in attending. There is going to be a standard time for the meetings, which will make it easier to plan ahead, and they only happen 4 times a year. But I found it like 8 years ago, I don't know, quite a while ago, to be very engaging to find out what, there's a credit union in the Appleton area that's as sustainable as can be, and they're just amazing. There's an insurance company that, there's a lot to be learned from other groups. And by going to different, kind of on a rotating basis among the members for hosting, we ended up on the Oneida Nation one time and learned what they were doing, and that was pretty amazing. So it's very eye-opening to see what other people are thinking of doing, and then it's sort of kind of, what do I want to say? Kind of makes you feel good when you see how far ahead we are of some other places. But then it can also make you very sad when you see how other places are farther ahead than us. So that'll be on next month's. Does anybody else have anything for next month's agenda
All I'd like to be able to, once I meet with
with your group?
my groups, is bring back a social media proposed plan that we can discuss.
SBDC Ken.
And environmental studies, yeah.
No.
I do not.
Okay, got that on there. And I'm trying to recall, do we have a speaker scheduled for next time, or was, I thought,
I will have to check with Brandon. I'm not
Okay.
sure on that one.
I'm not either, so if we do, we do. If we don't, we will. We'll try and stay busy. Okay, anything else? Our next meeting will be on Monday, October 2nd, at our usually scheduled time. None of this Thursday stuff, folks. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.